Think about like the greatest comeback in history in the NFL. I go back to Frank Reich, 1993. Frank Reich with the Buffalo Bills, like they're down 35-3. And it was like obvious they're out for the count. It was obvious. That's kind of what we got going on here. Hey, welcome back to Luso, a show about our great country, the United States of America, in case you're wondering about that, and teaching the next generation about the God stories from 1776. We here believe that coffee is important to every show, so just sipping it over here. Don't mind me, I'm just sipping it. Well, let's dive back in. If you haven't been watching our shows and our episodes, we're just unpacking or unraveling 30 God stories from the American Revolution. American Revolution began 250 years ago. 250 years ago. That's why we have this awesome cake here. Matter of fact, every now and then, I just need to test it all out. You know what I'm talking about? Wow. I'm just telling you right now, that's some good cake. But we're not cutting the cake today. We're not cutting the cake. I'm just tasting it. Well, our point is we're not cutting the cake until we look back in history to see what God was doing. What was God up to? There are an incredible list of miracles, or God stories, as I like to call them, of what God was doing for us to even have this great country. And if you go back to the week of Thanksgiving, I was just unpacking some of the blessings that we have. The United States Constitution, we can see that 180 countries out of 195, mind you, have actually used the U.S. Constitution in some way, shape, or form. Our founding fathers from 250 years ago have impacted billions on our planet over the last 250 years. I don't think they realized that. I'm sure when they were writing those documents, they had no idea. And today, I unpacked a few episodes ago, today, Americans live in the top 1% wealthiest in the world. But it's not about us. It's about generosity, and it's about us giving back. So last year, we gave about $600 billion away in charity. $600 billion. So we're just unpacking, hey, we live in a great country. Why does it matter? Because what took place 250 years ago is an act of God. That's all we can say. It's an act of God. These are infallible people doing infallible things, and yet God steps in and he intervenes, and that's what we're looking at. So today, we're talking about Number six in terms of a God story. And if you listen to the episode from yesterday, I was just talking about how God intervened with a nor'easter on Manhattan. If you've been to New York City, of course, is probably one of the most iconic cities on the planet. Like, you know, you see it in all kinds of movies and everything. But so in Manhattan, a nor'easter comes in and saves the day. And today, we're talking about the next day, okay? Next day is September 16, 1776. And the British, General Howe just assumed, mind you, General Howe is a brother, so there's two generals. General Howe, I forget the first names, but one's on the ground, one's on the ships, okay? The two brothers, they're controlling it all. And they're like, we're going to whoop their ass, and we're going to get back to England, and we're going to enjoy Christmas back over at home. That's what they're thinking. But God had another plan to write, right? That's what we're sitting here talking about. So yesterday, September 15, 1776, a nor'easter comes in and saves the day. And General George Washington is able to get 9,000 men back into a safe place. Well, now he's in a safe place, and now September 16, 1776, these guys are just like wore out, sitting there, just trying to think about how they're going to survive and get back to their farm and their family, okay? And here we have the British Army are like, this is great. We're just gonna come and annihilate them. So they go in on ground, and they're somewhat taunting them. I mean, literally, kind of doing like some fox horns and stuff. I mean, they're literally like, you know, just trying to scare them in the boots and that way the Continental Army, the few ragtag farmer guys that are there, are just gonna run and scatter. But George Washington decides, you know what? I'm going to take a stand today. We need a win. Think about this in football. Think about like the greatest comeback in history in the NFL. Okay, I guess I like putting everything in terms of football. I mean, it's that time of year, right? Football time. So if you think about a team and a comeback, what the greatest comeback in history? I go back to Frank Reich, 1993. Frank Reich with the Buffalo Bills, like they're down 35-3. 35-3. And it was like obvious they're out for the count. It was obvious. Like I imagine anybody who was watching, I don't even know if I was watching that day. 1993, I was watching lots of football. But anyway, if you were watching, you're like 35-3, there's no way they're going to come back. It's impossible. That's kind of what we got going on here. This is September 16 of 1776, and it looked obvious they were out. Like if you were putting some bets on this game, the American Revolution, you'd have been like, they're gone, they're out, and that's what the British were thinking. And your odds would have been stacked against you in the betting, betting offices. Like, yeah, I'm going to make lots of money on this bet, right? Well, anyway, here the Continental Army, they're shaking, and George Washington is like, we need a win. I'm going to get these guys to stand up and fight like they've never fought before. Now, mind you, they don't have nearly as many troops as the British, but George Washington uses like hills. He just strategically uses some incredible things there in his favor. And the battle only lasts. This is the Battle of Brooklyn Heights. You go look it up in northern Manhattan. And only lasts 4 hours. And the British assumed they were just going to knock them out, just ding, and they're out. But they're not. And just when you thought the American Revolution was over, and just when you thought the Continental Army was knocked out, that's when they won. Like they got a W. They got the win. They got a win there nobody expected. Like it was like Vegas odds way against them. Like there was no way in the world they should have won. When you look at tactically what they were up against, when you look at the world superpower up against these farmers, this little ragtag militia guys, teenagers, and they get a win. In case you didn't know, George Washington had more losses than he had wins. His whole strategy was, if I could just act like we're going to fight the world's strongest army and retreat so we could go play another day, So retreat and play, and that way. I mean, he just kept losing because he was going up against the world's strongest army. Like, what are the chances of you winning? And he knew that. But in this case, he gets the W. And that's the God story. That's the amazing God story. When they're wore out, exhausted, and they're even being taunted by the British army, in 4 hours, the British retreat, and they're like, wait a minute. Those guys are legitimately here to fight for their freedoms and their liberty. So that's the God story we have today. So, hey, tune in tomorrow and we'll talk about numbers. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Hit subscribe below. But more than that, click the link below, luso.tv. Watch our short film. That's how you can really help us. Together, you and I, together, we can educate 83% of Americans that don't understand why we fought the American Revolution. But I need your help. We need your help. So share it with your friends. Pay it forward. Send it to 1,000 of your friends. Okay, maybe 100, 10 of your friends. Pay it forward. Click the link, luso.tv.